wrote this, right?
Yeah.
So you shouldn't be nervous. Do you want me to go and print out?
No, I think I can
copies?
just go over it real quick.
Because if you're looking at it on the screen, I just want to make sure.
Yeah, because my eyes aren't like
my eyes aren't
the
greatest.
greatest.
I can only read what's up on the screen.
Even that, like, I have kind of like distance issues. So
I'm gonna go get you a printed copy.
All right, perfect.
Okay.
All right.
All right. I'll be back. I'll go get you a printed copy. So what I'll do is we can just leave it here for you, and you can just read from there, or you can, however you want to do it. I'll put it up on the screen. Yep.
think just in case, maybe.
I'll leave it as a just in case.
Yeah,
Yep.
but
Okay.
I think
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. On the screen? Okay, you won't be able to read it off of this because then they won't be able to hear you. But I'll just throw it up onto the screen right now and you can take a look, okay? It's on that big screen, so. You're okay to read that? Okay. I'll have a hard copy here just in case you want to just grab it, okay? Okay, so when they call you up, you just come down and you can stand at that microphone just like you did. Thank you very much. You can read whatever part of it you want. It's like the last day of school right now. Initial and inaugural board was my first day of school. This is my last day of school. Trustee students have already learned from us. Oh, I just texted them. You can tell me later. Never.
Welcome, everyone. We're going to call our meeting to order. Welcome to our board meeting for Monday, June 18th. We begin with our HWDSB land acknowledgement. The Hamilton Wentworth District School Board acknowledges our presence on ancestral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee Confederacy land as determined by the Dish with One Spoon Treaty. The intent of this agreement is for all nations sharing this territory to do so responsibly, respectfully, and sustainably in perpetuity. We respect the longstanding relationships with the local Indigenous communities, the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation, and the Six Nations of the Grand River. At this time, we kindly ask that you stand for the singing of our national anthem.
Tony
Once again, welcome to our board meeting. Welcome to trustees, exec council, staff, members of local media, those joining us in our public gallery, those watching on our web stream. At this time, I'm looking for an approval of the agenda. Trustee Van Geffen, thank you. Trustee Archer, thank you. Any questions or comments? See none, all in favor? That is unanimous, thank you. Everyone is present, by the way. We have no regrets this evening. Any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none. Oral reports. So we've switched up the agenda slightly today. So we're going to begin with our student trustee, director, and chair reports. So to begin, we'll start with item 5A, student trustees report. We'll look to our student trustees, Ruby High and Morgan Jail, for your last official trustee, student trustee report.
Thank you. So we'll start with Austa Updates, which is to say that we don't actually have any new Austa Updates because we had our last conference already before the last report. So nothing new to really say about that, other than that the executive is transitioning in and that we're passing on documents to next year's committee co-chairs and everything like that. But that's all for Austa.
Yeah, in terms of local activities, we had our very last 2 Senate meetings with elementary and secondary just last Thursday. And they were both really great meetings. With secondary, we got a lot of work done. It was still really productive, but it was a good review of the year that we had. We collected a lot of feedback from elementary specifically, most of it really positive and a lot of really good constructive criticism as well. So we wrote down some of the notes because they were really sweet. So one senator said, "Thank you for giving us the chance to not just be middle school kids, but also people with important opinions."
We'll just go through we have 4 of them here. So another one said, "I liked how you guys understood us even though you were older than us."
And then another says, "I liked the agenda. It gave me time to make and form ideas. I found the ratio to comedy relief to conversation good. It let our conversations be powerful, but not sad. The word of the day really helped create conversations. The pizza types varied."
Which they did not. That's pretty funny. And the last one is, "I liked learning about things going on in the world."
Yeah, and then it was a really sweet meeting. And then in terms of secondary, like I said, we had a really productive meeting, but it was still really fun. We finished the good draft of next year's Senate Constitution, which we're going to leave in Tara and Cameron's hands, but we're really glad that we could lay that foundation for them before they come into it. Yeah, it was bittersweet, but it was ultimately very, very rewarding.
Definitely. And to close off, we just like to say a great big thank you to many people in this room right now and people who aren't in the room, because it's been a fantastic year for both of us.
Yeah. Thank you for all of the support from the trustees, from the staff, from our mentor, from Heather, from the people sitting beside us at the tables. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to all of our incessant questions, for making us bring back our receipts.
It's been a really great experience too in terms of our learning and development as people, as young professionals even. So it's been fantastic to work with you all and to learn too in this role.
Feel equipped to take on what we're going to be doing in the future. And we're incredibly grateful to have had this opportunity. And we're really looking forward to seeing Cameron and Tara step into our shoes and advocate for students next year. It's been a pleasure to advocate for the students of HWDSB this year.
And right now we're working on making sure that we pass on all the documents and everything to Cameron and Tara so that they can hit the ground running. So it's an effort, but they'll be good to go right away.
Yeah. All right.
So thank you.
And with that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I can tell you, and I think if you ask any trustee around this table, especially the ones that have been around a bit longer, as long as we've had student trustees, we can remember all of them. You can think back, no matter what year it is, what pair of student trustees we had. And anytime you bob your head back into the boardroom, I can tell you that you'll forget about us much quicker than we forget about you. And that's because of and that's a good thing. But quite frankly, your influence will never be forgotten here as long as the 11 trustees are sitting around this table that are here right now, or any combination of us. So thank you for all of your work. And like I said, don't hesitate to pop in every once in a while. We do appreciate it. So thank you once again. Next report we have our director. Mr. Director.
Thank you, through the chair. I'd like to begin by a quote, and it's from a Holocaust survivor I just heard speak most recently, named Max Eisen. His quote was that public education must remember their role to educate not only the minds, but the hearts of our students and staff. So thank you for letting me introduce humans of HWDSB and some of the people who make up our diverse and inspiring community. As our trustees, one of your priorities is positive culture and well-being. I really want to highlight people today who are really bringing this to life. As you know, the Humans of HWDSB project drew inspiration from sensationally popular Humans of New York, which captured the people and stories of the Big Apple in 2010. At HWDSB, photographer and teacher Connie Smith, who is with us tonight, Connie Little Wave, Connie Sun, Little Wave Connie. Thank you. I met Connie in Education Week of 2016 when I visited Lawfield School and saw this presentation of the Humans of Lawfield. Connie is one of those gifts in a system as big as we are, someone who is willing to take the time to gather the meaningful personal stories that make us human. She believes that the project is a way to build connections, celebrations of uniqueness, and open dialogue, which directly aligns with the culture of empathy and help we are building at HWDSB through We Help and other initiatives. Connie's blog you can find at www.humansofhwdsb.ca. It continues to grow with more visitors and content and may soon deliver on her slogan that it takes 1,000 voices to tell a single story. We are lucky to have Connie Sun with us tonight. Thank you, Connie, for all you have done to build community at HWDSB through this amazing project. Also with us tonight are 4 participants in the Humans of HWDSB project who are here to tell their stories. We have students Cameron Youssef and Sadie Mans, educational assistant Jessica Compton, and teacher Michelle Bellavia. Thank you, Bellavia. So, of course, I should have just used the Bellavia. Of course, thank you. Thank you, all of you, for being here. And thank you for sharing your stories that remind us that we are far more alike than different, and that all of us are very unique. Now, I believe that we will hear from our 4 participants as they read their stories profiled with their photo as part of the Humans at HWDSB. Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay? My name is Michelle Bellavia, and this is my story. I grew up in a typical first-generation Canadian family. Both of my parents were immigrants. My father was from Italy, and my mother from England. I was fortunate to have supportive parents who made sure I received an excellent education and taught me that hard work goes a long way. After becoming a teacher in London, England, and working there for 8 years, my family and I moved back to my hometown, Hamilton. Little did I know that my life would change forever on October 12, 2005. I was teaching at Sanford Avenue School when I was informed that my father had been killed by someone I knew very well, my ex-husband. His tragic death rocked me to my core, my faith in humanity shaken. Suddenly, I was thrown into the criminal justice system with lawyers, court dates, and the inevitable trial. All the while, I was teaching full-time and trying to keep things normal for my 7- and 3-year-old daughters. The inner strength and resilience I did not know I had emerged as I decided I would not let this tragedy define my life. My priority was raising my 2 daughters. I learned that my ex-husband had schizophrenia, and thus he was put into the mental health system, which was new territory for me to navigate. Every year, for 10 years, I attended his hearings and spoke on behalf of my family. Over the years, many people have asked me how I managed to overcome such a terrible event. I tell them it was one thing: gratitude. Every day, I would wake up and think of things I was grateful for: my 2 healthy daughters, my job, my friends, my mother, to name a few. I chose to live with love and kindness rather than bitterness and hatred. As my hero, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said,
Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. In my classroom, I share my mantra of gratitude with my students. During our daily community circle, we say what we are grateful for and learn how to be compassionate and empathetic human beings. In the end, this journey has taught me that all of us have a strength and resilience inside of us ready to emerge when we are at our lowest point, and that, yes, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you.
I plan on being quite successful in the future. With that, I mean having a really good job. Though I don't know what that job is yet, I'll try to do my best at school, which is necessary to having a good future. When I was younger, I wasn't the greatest at school. As I became older, I just stepped up my game. I saw the life I would have had without education, and I chose otherwise. After that realization, I began doing better at school, and all my grades gradually improved. My parents are super strict on me. They take education very seriously and put me in extra programs after school. My parents were successful people in Kurdistan. My mom was going to be a physics professor at a university. My dad would have been successful too, had he not been forcefully drafted into a war he did not want to be part of. Luckily, shortly after he was drafted, the war ended, and they were both safe. They made the choice of coming to Canada, and as a result, they had to give up everything they've worked for. I think I would have been different had my parents stayed in Kurdistan. I appreciate the tolerance and the opportunities here in Canada. My future is definitely bright. Thank you.
Test. My name's Jessica. I didn't think that a year and a half ago sharing my story publicly would get me this far to speak to you wonderful people. So growing up, I've lived in over 50 different places, including foster care system, since I was 15, and I had also lived in the streets up in North Bay. There's a couple little spots that I'll probably add into the little blurb up here, but taking care of myself, nobody would do that for me, and over the years, I've met incredibly inspiring people who taught me how to self-reflect, and most importantly, to give daily and to embrace who you are. My healing journey really started a year ago when I began to write and openly share my experiences. I mapped out 317 cafes in Hamilton, and I've been to just over 200. On my cafe visits, I talk about my life story, and I offer journals, door prizes, and peer support to participants for free. My passion for my work today becomes from my past. I'm very protective of children, and I also advocate for their well-being. Having worked as a child and youth worker for 13 years, I love my job in helping kids in the schools. I'm also involved with an organization such as the Youth Wellness Center on James Street. I like to support these programs and organizations any way I can. My latest adventure was recording my first music album, Tray of Stars, Telling Our Stories. It fills me with joy to see some albums take off and also readily available on Spotify and other music platforms. Sorry, bear with me, I don't have my glasses on. I'm proud to have donated 100% to the funds to the album to the Youth Wellness Center, and I'm also looking forward to staying connected to continue to give back to the community. I didn't even think a year ago that sharing my life story would generate all these subsequent opportunities, and it goes to show that just how powerful it can seek connections and to share our own stories. So thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Sadie, and I'm going to tell you about the story how I played ringette. My favorite sport in winter is called ringette. It's kind of like hockey, but with skates. Sticks and rubber rings. I play every weekend, and I'm part of a team in the Hamilton Heat. I am really excited about the weekend and the game coming up. I really want to play forward because I want to get my first goal. If the coach puts me in forward, I'm going to be really happy. I was defense in the last tournament. I tried to work really hard at every practice to show my coach that I can play forward, but sometimes I get a little chatty over coaches. Says that we play whichever position is best for the entire team. And I'm okay with that. But I hope I can play forward someday.
So I would like to close by thinking, oh, I'm sorry. You're still going? Oh, finish your story, sweetheart. Finish your story.
And I did score my first goal, and I was really excited.
No problem. Thank you. I want to thank Connie. I want to thank Cameron, Sadie, Jessica, and Michelle, because you are fantastic examples of the wonderful people we have in HWDSB, staff and students. And I was so moved and touched by seeing how much we can learn if people are willing to listen and share their stories. And if we're going to reach our full potential for staff and students, we really need to take the time to create the conditions for people to feel safe and to share their stories. As all four of you, five, have been so inspiring, and thank you again for being here this evening. I thought there was no better way to share what we've been working on in terms of our positive cultural well-being than to have the voices of some of our staff share their personal stories tonight. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Director, and thank you to our staff and students that have joined us today in our gallery. I think all of your stories have such a great impact on all of us. And as trustees, sometimes we're stuck in this boardroom a little bit too much, but hearing what you do and your stories on a daily basis and your interests and your struggles mean a lot to us. So thank you for making the trip up to our building here. But nonetheless, we hope to see you in our school communities. So we wish you the best and happy and safe summer, and look forward to speaking with you in the new year. Thank you. Okay, we'll move forward to our next agenda item, which is 5C, the Chair's Report. This is certainly a very important time of year, and I think within our board, we set a certain environment or culture over the years. And as you conclude or come near the end of a trustee term, especially at this time of year, the environment really does shift and change with new relationship and a lot of changes. So what we have here today is really something that beyond the next week or two just won't be the same, and not in a bad or necessarily good way. It just, things change. So when we get back here in September, You'll notice from election cycles and whatnot, everyone's will be in a different headspace. There will be new folks coming and going, and there will be a lot of change coming up. But with that, just to highlight how important I think this past term has been for all of us, each and every trustee around this table entered with different perspectives, different experiences, and I think we've really grown together in many different ways. And as we look back on a lot of our great influences and projects that we've accomplished over the years, it's been spectacular, and particularly this last year, as we're able to say to our communities that we have 9 new schools that are being constructed and 2 major additions across our board that seem to touch every corner of our great city. So I think we should all be very, very proud of everything that we've done and carrying forward our strategic directions. When we began, we had another set of strategic directions that a lot of us couldn't necessarily rhyme off particularly easily. I think our new strategic directions have been embedded in virtually everything that we do, and I commend the director for ensuring that, and of course showing us progress along the way. But some of the changes that are coming forward, we'll see in a couple of weeks, and especially when we get started in September, we have a new provincial government. We'll see what that looks like, and of course, a lot of folks, former MPPs and incoming MPPs in Hamilton that we look forward to working with. The biggest change, I think, would be in 2 areas of our city. Of course, and we'll be putting out, I'm sure, a thank you letter in a couple of days, but our MPP, Ted McMeekin, who we've worked with a lot over the years, despite political stripes or whatever that might be involved at that level, he certainly has been an asset for our board, has had a great contribution, has helped us along the way. So on behalf of our board, we'll be contacting Ted and thanking him for everything that he did. Of course, with that, we welcome Sandy Shaw in that area, who I'm sure we'll be meeting with sooner rather than later, and we look forward to engaging her on so many important issues in that area of the city. Of course, we also welcome, I guess, soon-to-be former councillor Donna Skelly to the new position on the rural area of our city, Waterdown Glanbrook. Did I get that right, Greg? Flamborough, thank you. And as Donna begins that role, I think we've always had a good relationship with Donna as we worked with her on Central Mountain. So of course, we'll be chatting with her as well. So a lot of change on the horizon, and of course, we'll be having, before you know it, in September or even August, election fever will definitely kick in, and I know all of us will be hard at work in one way or another. And of course, when we get back here in September, there'll be some new faces in the boardroom we mentioned last week, and certainly want to mention again as we say farewell to Superintendent Prendergast. All of his work at our board, once again, an influence that will be definitely missed, and all of his contributions are very, very much appreciated. So we will see a lot of new faces, and like I said, things are going to change beyond this month, but I think we can say that's quite exciting. Sometimes it might seem strange, sometimes you might not know what's coming up around the corner, but just to let you guys in on a little secret, they said that about us as well before we were all sworn in 2014. I think we turned out all right. So thank you to everyone, and I just want to wish everyone a safe and happy summer. But nonetheless, you still have to endure the rest of this meeting, which by the way, for the record, it's Heather's favorite meeting of the year. She has a countdown on her calendar, and yeah, second favorite, yes. She has a lot of emojis that she can show you after this meeting. But anyways, thank you to everyone, and hope you enjoy the meeting. Okay. Moving on, item number 6, Audit Committee report. We go to the Chair of Audit Committee, Trustee Beattie. You now get to contend with all of the opening speeches with an audit report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll do my best. It's my pleasure to bring forward the Audit Committee Public Session Committee report from the meeting held on the 31st of May. What trustees will see before them is the update from Jenny Baker, the Regional Internal Audit Manager. She brought an update on some of the current audits in process, including the health and safety audit, and provided also the independent assertion and compliance with international standards of professional practice of internal auditing. It was riveting stuff for Stacy, and the rest of us also enjoyed. We also welcome a new member to the Audit Committee. We have a new external community member, John Loretta, who was in the process and joined us electronically. Actually, he's in the process of winding down his career. He spent a very good career in the public sector, specifically in the audit section, so he's extremely knowledgeable and a very welcomed addition to the committee. I'll have more in the private session report, so at this time, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to move for receiving the report as presented.
Thank you very much, Trustee Beatty. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Trustee Van Geffen. Thank you. Questions, comments? Trustee Deeth?
I just want to know if Trustee Van Geffen was there or not.
You were not.
He was not. It is showing that he was there, but he was not there.
Which might have been at first. Okay, good, for the record. Further questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the audit report? Unanimous. Thank you very much. With our student trustees out of the boardroom. Next item, 7, Program Committee Report from June 4th. Trustee Danko.
Thank you. So we had 2 items on the program report, or on this program report. The first is Transforming Learning Everywhere. So we did have a review of the 2017-2018 TLE implementation, and we heard about the plan for the 2018-19 school year. We also understood a little more about the beginning of a measurement process that's happening, where there's an experimental study involving 49 educators that looks at the impact of TLE along with collaborative inquiry. So it's not just about, again, remember TLE is not just about iPads, it's about a whole program approach. We also heard that from the 2016-17 Positive Climate Survey responses, there was some insight in potential themes related to TLE, and we noted some potential differences between the thoughts of elementary versus secondary students on the one-to-one iPads versus class kits. But there's not necessarily anything statistical that we could pull from that data. It's just themes at this point. So the 2018-19 implementation year is year 5 of TLE, and so there's going to be a focus on continuing with the original plan, embedding TLE into the annual plan, and then looking at the focus on culturally relevant and responsive pedagogy. There will be continuing measurement of TLE in 2018-19, and we look forward to hearing from Brandy's department. Staff also committed to reviewing the communication of why and how the iPad technology is being implemented for families, and looking at how do we get further feedback from students on the practicalities of using the iPad as a learning tool. And there is a motion, so Trustee Pattison moved that following the fall TLE report update, that TLE be a focus on the work plans for program and finance and facilities to establish future directions beyond the current 5-year plan completion. And I know that's a little presumptuous, but program and budget go hand in hand, particularly in this case where we are funding iPads for students. And beyond the 5 years, we need to determine what's going to happen with the 7 pilot schools. So those are elementary schools with one-to-one iPads versus class kits. And there is a budget implication for that. So trustees really want to see us having earlier conversations about this next year, as opposed to waiting until May or June when we don't have time to change direction. The second item that we talked about was an update on the special high skills major programs. There were 13 applications for new programs, and they were all accepted. So we now have 43 programs in total, and there's an enrollment anticipated to be 1,359 students for the next year, and that's up from 1,000 participating in 2017-18. For next steps, the program department needs to look at creating suggested boundaries for each SHSM because they are considered Tier 3 programs. And we also, again, had a conversation and asked, how can we better communicate SHSM programs to all families, and how can we do that communication earlier so that students are prepared, that they have the right courses, that they understand what their options are going into high school. So staff will be reviewing the communication strategies to try to reach more potential students, because some of these programs sound pretty impressive. With that, I will move the report.
Thank you very much, Trustee Danko. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Trustee Bingham. Thank you. Questions, comments? Well done. All in favor? Oh, you want to add something? Do you have a question or comment to yourself? Go ahead.
I did neglect to mention, I did send out an email today, and it was a letter from students that didn't make it into this board meeting as correspondence. And just, it's interesting information, small group of students that did their own study on how they use iPads in high school. So I hope that that's something that when staff are looking at how do we get information from students, we think about those types of questions next year, but you might enjoy the read.
Thank you for that. Trustee Pattison?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to comment one more thing on that. I just want to thank those students and for Trustee Danko for sharing this with us, because it was a great read, and you know, I like how candid they are and some of their discussion there. But this really could inspire a lot of teachers on how to get their kids to engage and to comment on things at the board. And you know, this was done by students, and I think they did a great job, and I appreciate the work that they've done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trustee Pattison. Further comments, questions? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Next report, number 8, Finance and Facilities from June 6th. Trustee Van Geffen.
Thank you. Trustees will see before them the report from our June the 6th Finance and Facilities meeting. First action item is the annual report from staff regarding the surplus carry forward for school budgets. Trustees will recall that anything, as you see here, 10% request to carry forward any surplus in excess of 10% or an amount equivalent, equal or greater than $25,000 must receive board approval. So in short, what you see here is 4 elementary schools in Bonetto, Eastdale, Mountain View, Spencer Valley, 2 secondary schools in Glendale and Westdale, $45,000 on the elementary end, $89,000 on the secondary end, for a total of $137,000. What's important to know here, there was a chart with the committee. It's not part of this one, but if you look at the last 7 years, this amount has continued to trend down not in only schools, but dollars that have been carried forward. I think if you go back 7 years ago, the board approved over $1 million in carryover within the schools, which is quite a large amount. So, yeah, that is the first one. That was an action item. You see the recommendation there. Second report, this is a carryover from our board meeting where we discussed the annual rental rates report and rate update. This board did pass at the meeting on May the 28th that the rental rates increased for the 2018-19 school year by 3%. What wasn't approved at board are the 2 items that you see here that the committee saw fit to recommend for approval, and that commencing in the 2019-20 school year, HWDSB rental department implement an annual increase to rental rates that is tied to the annual rate of inflation. And 2, that once every 5 years, a full review of the rental rates occurs to ensure that the rates remain at cost recovery, and the first full review is scheduled for 2022. So that is what is moved. The committee felt satisfied with what staff brought forward in terms of their reports, and it makes for a pretty interesting read as you look at the comparisons between the Hamilton Catholic Board, City Hamilton, revenue generated, and historical bookings by community groups as well. Action item C, transportation and driver shortage. So this is a recommendation that came from the board that we write a letter to the ministry. We had, if trustees will go to the committee report, you will see the letter that was brought forward. Some of the comments from the committee to the chair spoke to strengthening the language. As a whole, the committee was in approval with the letter that was there, with the advice that we strengthen some of the language and speak to the consistency of transportation within surrounding boards. But the direction that was given from the committee was that the chair of the board write a letter to the Ministry of Education with a copy to surrounding school boards outlining transportation concerns that are both shared by the province, across the province by school boards, and those unique to what we face here in HWDSB. Finally, there were 2 monitoring items. The first one was our interim financial report. What's worth noting on this is that given the updates that we receive and the overage that we're experiencing in our replacement coverage for staff, it is anticipated that we will be using $500,000 of our $2 million contingency. The other monitoring item also had to do with our quarterly capital projects construction update. That report, that's a very strong report that staff have continued to build as years have gone on. So as we move into the summer months where there are many capital projects ongoing in a variety of scope and size and scale, it's worth a look for what's going on within your area. And with that, through you, Mr. Chair, I will move the report.
Thank you, Trustee Van Geffen, seconded by Trustee Beatty. Questions, comments? See none. Thank you, Trustee Van Geffen. All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Not unanimous? All in favor? Trustees Archer, Bingham, Beatty, Hicks, Pattison, Johnstone, White, Van Geffen, Danko, Deeth. Those opposed? Trustee Mulholland, thank you. The motion carries. Item number 9, Special Education Advisory Committee, June 4th. We'll go to Trustee Johnstone.
Thank you. I actually participated in this meeting by phone call. So I'm pleased to bring the report of SEAC from June 4th. Under the Education Act, our school board and all school boards are required to maintain a special education plan. So on the meeting on June 4th, SEAC reviewed this plan and they produced the recommendation that the Board of Trustees receive the special education plan for 2018-2019 year. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Johnstone. You're moving to receive the report. Do we have a seconder? Trustee Deeth, thank you. Questions, comments? All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Item number 10, French as a Second Language Advisory Committee from May 30th. I wasn't able to attend, unfortunately. Superintendent Dunlop, is there anything that you'd like to share from this report? I think this is the one we carried over from last week. Superintendent?
Thank you, Chair White. You can see the report printed in front of you, and I'm pleased to present it to the board.
And Trustee Danko, are you happy to move the report? Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Trustee D. Thank you. Questions, comments? All in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you very much. Item 11, resolution to Committee of the Whole Private Session as per Education Act 2072B. Mover, Trustee Beatty, seconded. Trustee Archer, all in favor? That is unanimous. Please excuse us. We'll move to the side room. The motion carries. We'll move to the side room and resume in public session when we are complete. Okay, thank you, everyone. We are now back in public session with quorum, it looks like. We are now on item number 12, report from Committee of the Whole private session from just a moment ago. Kindly ask the Vice Chair to read the verbal report.
Thank you. Through the chair, the following recommendations can be brought forward to the public forum tonight. That the deferred motion of the February 26, 2018 Committee of the Whole meeting regarding a Finance and Facilities meeting report be approved, including a land severance of Ancaster High School. That the Audit Committee report from May 31st, 2018 be approved, including that the 2017-18 audit plan be amended to include the health and safety audit, and that the internal audit plan for the 2018-19 include backup disaster and recovery plan and capital projects. That staff continue discussions with the City of Hamilton regarding the proposed Dominic Agostino Riverdale Community Hub. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chair. Do we have a seconder? Seconded, Greg Van Geffen. All in favor, or any questions, comments? All in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving now to item 13. Notice of motion from Trustee Van Geffen. He is the only thing keeping us from summer break. Go ahead, Trustee Van Geffen.
I will be brief. Through the chair, should I read the motion?
Yeah, so if you could read the motion in its entirety, move it. We'll look for a seconder, and then you can speak to it.
So trustees will see before them a notice of motion naming the track and field at the Dundas Valley Secondary School, whereas the track and field at the Dundas Valley Secondary School is currently under revitalization and will be completed in the fall of 2018. Whereas Dundas community members and DVSS staff have brought forward the suggestion of naming the new track and field after Dundas resident Art Sampson, former Parkside Secondary School principal, former Dundas counselor, founder and volunteer of the Dundas community initiatives like but not limited to the Roots Youth Center and house basketball leagues. Be it resolved that a naming a school in park committee be struck at the commencement of the 2018-19 school year, and that the final report to the Board of Trustees come no later than November the 30th, 2018.
Thank you, Trustee Van Geffen. Do we have a seconder? Trustee Johnstone, thank you. Trustee Van Geffen, would you like to speak to your motion for no more than 5 minutes? Preferably less.
So I will briefly, understanding that we have a policy in place with naming our schools and schools in part. This, like many other capital projects that are going on within the board, members of the community and staff members have come forward with a suggestion. So it's appropriate that we strike a committee and that it come back here to trustees with their recommendations, and like other naming processes in the past, that we deliberate as a board. And this is something that the Dundas community has really gotten behind. Trustees will note that this particular initiative has I believe it's $220,000 is being kicked in from our partners at the City of Hamilton. $250,000, thank you, Dave, from our partners at the City of Hamilton. So it's something that everyone is watching in Dundas, and the person mentioned in here has had a significant impact within Dundas, but I'm not prejudging where we land. So with that, through you, Mr. Chair, I think it is the right move to strike this committee when schools DVSS rejoins in September. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Van Geffen. Comments, questions? Trustee Hicks.
Just a comment that when we did this at McNabb, the committee looked at separating the track and the field. And I don't know if that's a possibility or whatever, but I just giving you some history of what happened at McNabb. So we started with one name for both, and the committee looked at it and they felt that it was appropriate to split it up.
Okay, thank you. I think that's good food for thought, that if that comes up in the discussion, the motion's probably lenient enough to maneuver that if necessary. Good. Thank you, Trustee Hicks. Further discussion? All in favor? That is unanimous with Trustee Danko out of the boardroom. One item remaining, motion to adjourn. Van Geffen, Bingham, all in favor? Thank you, everyone.